Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times. Welcome to my channel, welcome to Total War Warhammer. So, continuing along with our tournament here. Now, some weird things happened in this particular set of matches, so I do have to clear up that a little bit. You might notice the timestamps here that match 1 actually happens before, or after rather, rounds 2 and 3. This is because our first round, we forgot to properly save it. So we actually have had to replay that match, and unfortunately, we have an inconsistent result here. So I actually won this match, but I lost the original match. So we counted the original match for the purpose of the tournament. That's going to be something that's quite important there. So I've got Archaon, the Everchosen. I've got the Exalted Champion over here, 2 Marauders, 4 of the Forbidden, or Forsaken rather, 2 of the Chaos Warriors with Halberds, 2 of the Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, 2 of the Wolves with poison, 1 of the Trolls with armor, and he's got the Empire General, Empire Captain. Let's go ahead and pause this really quickly here. He's got the Empire General on the Griffin there. Empire Captain, 2 units of Greatswords, 2 units of Demi-Griff Knights with Halberds, 2 units of Handgunners, 5 units of Spearmen, and the Luminarch of Hysh, the Templehof Luminarch variant there. So, one of the things to note about the Templehof Luminarch and any Luminarch in general is it's a very RNG-based weapon. Sometimes it essentially keeps whiffing and it does nothing, but most of the time it hits the target that you're aiming at. Now, there's very little that you can actually do to make it so that your general doesn't get sniped by this thing. So honestly, I just decided to rush forward with everything in my army here and try and get close as early as possible. Now, the first match and this match as well, I didn't really think there was any point in me having these Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes. They're in the composition to deal with certain things that he can take, but that he didn't end up taking. So I just sort of throw them away here. I'm just trying to get some cheap shots at his general a little bit there. They're dealing a little bit of damage to him, but not very much. Honestly, their attacks are pretty bad. I'm not even actually sure that they have got Parthian shot, but I'm pretty sure they do. Maybe not, but I always was pretty sure that they did have it. Anyway, we're just rushing forward with our mainline army here. Archaon is just getting sniped by the Luminarch there. It's a really stupid weapon, honestly, but it does its purpose and it does it pretty well. It's part of a metagame, though, that's sort of exiting from the game in every patch, so I'm not really sure what direction it's going to take. Maybe it just will be the thing that sticks around that does that. Now, Demi-Griff Knights are coming around to my flank here. They're actually trying to get into a position where they can start attacking my rear here of these Forsaken, and I don't really care if he does that in particular. What I'm doing here is moving my Chaos Warriors with Halberds and these Poison Warhounds in a sort of group together to stop these Demi-Griff Knights with Halberds from effectively charging into the rear of my army here. And you can see that that is exactly what happens. He gets stuck on these hounds, doesn't move forward. He does charge them with his general, and with the Demi-Griff Knights with Halberds, there's nothing I can really do to save these guys, but they've done their job there. They've lasted long enough. They've got the poison debuff on these guys for a little while longer, or not very much longer, but it is going to be enough that I can move these Chaos Warriors into combat here. Now, he does end up getting a bit of a rear charge here, but at this point in time, my Forsaken have done a lot of damage already. He fires off the shot over there, ends up plastering his own Demi-Griff Knights with Halberds. But yeah, my Halberd Warriors are able to get into the back of these guys, and his front line is sort of crumbling here. So because this front line is gone, basically, I'm able to sort of move these units to fight these Demi-Griff Knights with Halberds without necessarily worrying about the fact that I'd be flanked, although he does move these Greatswords into the fight as well. Start moving another unit of Chaos Warriors with Halberds into the fight here. He plasters a couple of them with the Luminarch, but that's not really that important. Archaon managed to get in combat with a sliver of health here. He's fighting an Empire Captain. He's actually going to be able to rout that Empire Captain before he goes down, but he's just really, really tough, really durable, really strong melee combatant there. And the Empire Captain just isn't really that good at fighting something like him because he's got poor armor-piercing damage and not necessarily the best damage in general here. You can see over here, 375 melee damage. His other statistics are kind of okay. We're seeing more flank shots coming in from that Templehof Luminarch. Not really too dangerous to me right now, but my units are breaking a little bit there, but the Griffins are breaking, and that's a little bit more important in many respects. His general has been fighting for a little while against this Forsaken unit over here. They've been doing a pretty good job of holding him up, but they finally do flee. They've taken half his health, though. Over here, these Great Swords are fighting these Chaos Trolls with the armor, and this is a really good fight for the Chaos Trolls with the armor. I could have used regular Trolls instead of the armored ones, but it doesn't really matter too much. It's still going to be quite good for them here. The reason you take the armored ones is because they don't really die that quickly to crossbow bolts, which makes them pretty good for this kind of fight. His general sort of flying over here, not really 100% sure. There goes Archon. My champion is just chomping his way through some spearmen, not really doing too much that's too relevant now. I'm pretty out of practice with this game. I don't remember necessarily all the things that I need to do to win a fight against certain types of opponents, and especially not someone who focuses on sort of general sniping, which is something I haven't really played against as much in recent patches. Not because it's not effective anymore, partly because it's not as effective anymore. Focusing too much on that means that, if you're up against a general who's got lots of regeneration or has health potions or potions of toughness, and especially if he's got double potions of health or potions of toughness, you're not going to necessarily be able to kill that guy, and that's really a detriment to that sort of assassination style. It means that you're throwing a lot of resources and you're not necessarily going to succeed. But it's still very effective against things like Archon, who don't have regeneration, don't have the ability to take potions, and just have a really hard time dealing with that sort of thing because they're not designed for that. It's one of the design flaws, I think, of this patch, is that some people can have the potions, but other ones can't, and they've made them a little bit too good. So you typically see very bland vanilla generals very, very often here. We've got, in fact, one of those over here. But still, we're surrounding up his units here and managing to take them out pretty well. My opponent does rely very, very heavily on these expensive, gimmicky support units, and, they work really well when your opponent doesn't react to them properly. When they try to kill those gimmicky support units, you're probably going to be able to win. What you should do in this situation is ignore the general, ignore the Luminarch, just kill the army off, and that's sort of what I'm doing here. I don't do it perfectly here. I think if I had a composition designed more for that philosophy in mind, this would have gone even better. Honestly, I thought that he should have been able to beat this composition really, really easily. You do see that my army is fleeing here, but it's mostly due to terror, so actually a lot of my stuff is going to start rallying. We do chase off his Empire Captain as well, but a lot of my units have rallied. They're going to be able to come back into the fight. This unit, no longer terrified, they're going to come back into the fight. The Trolls are back in the fight quite critically. But these Chaos Warriors with Halberds going to be able to turn around here. This guy, though, my Exalted Hero, I was a little bit worried when that guy went because that could cause a real bad chain route, but in any event, Chaos Trolls charging their way back into melee, starts clubbing these Great Swords to death pretty effectively. Getting Net of Ammonsoct over there, that's not really that important at this point in time. It's a little bit too late for that. If it had stopped these Trolls, that would have been much more important, but this stops all these guys over here. What I need to do just is hold on. There's nothing micro-wise or anything that I need to do at this point in time, because these Great Swords are going to lose to my Chaos Trolls at this point in time. We are also getting a nice rear charge there. Gets a good hit, causes lots of damage to these guys, and since they're sort of retreating, that's also going to cause a lot of problems for them. This Luminarch as well, not going to have the easiest time in the world. So the General sort of stomps his way in, and, I could have been even more ignoring him than I have been. He's at like half health. He has a healing potion. I just don't pay attention to that sort of unit and focus on destroying the army, and you'll notice that this guy's, now that he's unsupported, his health goes down really, really quickly. It doesn't matter if he tries to kite with him or try and run away with him, because he would either lose through disqualification or he would simply just lose through default, because his general, if he takes to the air, he would automatically lose at this point since he doesn't have land units left, really. These units are sort of rallying, but now that this general is getting beat up on, these units are all going to shatter as well. And yeah, just the Trolls coming in there, dealing really good damage to him. Forsaken doing pretty good damage to him, and you can see the balance of power bars actually really in my favor, but it's kind of weird that it is, in all honesty. Have this unit of Marauders over here. They're not going to be too important for this, but at this point in time, the Empire units all rout. So, this does technically still count as my loss here, so we do have to remember that. That's quite important, although I was thinking this would be a much, much worse loss because my opponent's composition is just so good against this type of composition. Very, very strong and effective against it. The only problem, of course, is that the Forsaken, since they were able to get cleanly into the Spearmen and the Handgunners, of course, they weren't doing as much as they honestly should have been doing in this kind of fight. So let's head on into the next match here. So this one is me playing as Undead. I've got Vlad von Karstein, the White King, 3 units of Spearmen, 5 units of Graveguard, 3 units of Black Knights, 2 units of Dire Wolves, the regiments around Dire Wolves, the Corpse Cart with the Bell. He's got a generic general, 2 Paladins, 2 Spearmen, 4 of the Polearms, 3 Archers, 2 Grail Knights, a Yeoman, and a Pegasus Knight. So he's got a pretty interesting mix of units there. He doesn't have much reliance on those mainline infantry for Bretonnia. Like 6 is pretty flimsy for a mainline for Bretonnia, and he's only got 3 peasant archers, which is, you know, okay, but not a huge number of them. 3 is actually a pretty good number of them, I think. But yeah, he's very, very reliant in this case on the Grail Knights and the Pegasus Knights and his characters. So this is actually composition that's similar to something that I face a lot on ladder. So I knew how to deal with this, even though I was rusty as hell, because like ever since I sort of came back, got my computer back, I've only played like 5 matches since I've got my computer back, other than these tournament ones. But what they do is they just take this whole knot of like air units and just charge in and then just disengage and then do this over and over again, and it's really, really annoying because they've got these health potions and stuff like that. They're really high armor units, they're really tough units, so they're just going to run in, charge, take 0 damage, and then disengage and have taken 0 damage, and they're just going to do this over and over again. But I know how to counter this to a certain extent, so this is one of those situations where it was just like, okay, I've dealt with this bullshit enough to know exactly how to counter it. So it's very, very effective, so it's one of those things that you guys out there should learn how to deal with to a certain extent. Like, you're probably not necessarily going to get a ton of people who play this style, but it is a style that is nonetheless going to be very, very common. So he decides that he's going to go for my Dire Pack Dire Wolves as his target for his big charge in here. That's because they've got a large bonus versus large units, so he wants to get rid of them early. I didn't actually think they were going to go for them, so I didn't have full preparedness for this, but in any event, when you see this coming in, what you do is you just immediately begin charging in with all of your other heavy, dense units, like my Black Knights over here, as well as some infantry. I probably should have pulled these guys back just so they'd be out of range of all this stuff, but it didn't really matter too much. I didn't really care. So you can see that he's trying to drag his units out of the combat, but they're stuck in the combat because of all these high-density units that you cannot easily pull through. You cannot pull through a Black Knight. So he's actually stuck in here and he's taking a lot of damage. I'm even pulling in another unit of Skeleton Warriors through summoning to get behind these guys to make it even harder for them to escape. And every time they try to do an escape move, they take a lot of damage. So it's not necessarily a good idea to do that. You want to make sure that you're not sort of trying to drag through in a situation where it would be dangerous. There's like one Pegasus Knight that sort of managed to escape, but the unit is getting completely rolled. Over here, he's pulling in the Grail Knights as well. They're being chased down by the Dire Wolves from behind them. Now, Dire Wolves can't really do much damage to these guys, but when the Grail Knights are retreating or moving through them, they can sort of nip at their heels and do a good job of dealing damage that way. So, basically, this is exactly how Bretonnia sort of does this attack, and it's really sort of not a fun way to play the game, in my opinion, so... but it does win matches. The thing is that, like, you just sort of do the cycle charge over and over again with units that will take 0 damage if you don't deal with it properly. This is how you deal with it properly. You just surround it completely, 100%. They will take a lot of damage. They will lose their morale very, very quickly, and they will probably actually lose a bunch of very, very valuable units. We're getting our Corpse Cart back into combat, and we're just pushing forward with our Graveguard. The reason is that if he moves up with his infantry and surrounds my infantry blob and my cavalry blob here, he will win. There's no doubt about that. So I just need to zone him out of that. This makes it so he's only attacking with like one of his men-at-arms polearms and spearmen at arms with shields, and he should have actually been using them to clean up these units faster, so I'm just distracting him there. Another unit of Skeleton Warriors popping up here, tearing themselves out of the ground, and they'll be sort of holding these Grail Knights a little bit in combat. And you can see that he's trying to retreat his Grail Knights through this unit of skeletons now, which is not necessarily going to be great for him because he does take damage for doing that. Over here, though, you can see that, like, this is how tough these guys are, even though they're stuck in there. Although, frankly, I've never had my guys actually tank it out like this. But, yeah, like, his general there he's very, very tired at this point in time. My corpse cart has sort of moved in here to start healing all my units, so that's going to make it even harder for him to break anything through. I'm getting +8 to my attack bonus as well, which is making it so that I can deal a lot more damage. His general actually routs here, which is pretty impressive. But we're sort of chasing around his Grail Knights a little bit, and they're taking a lot of damage as they try and run. Vlad von Karstein sort of running around this way, chasing after the general a little bit, but that general will be back. He's got potions and stuff like that. Vlad von Karstein himself has taken no damage, but part of it's because he's regenerated. But the White King as well has probably taken, he's pretty much taken no damage, and he hasn't even used his potion yet, so it's going pretty well as far as that goes. Over here, this is why you don't necessarily want to have really thin lines. My 3 units of Graveguard cost a lot less than the amount of infantry that my opponent has here. These unsupported infantry are actually kind of losing this fight to a certain degree because their morale is so low, and because the Graveguard are so much better in melee combat than them, so they're taking a lot of damage there. We pop over, I was hoping to get some Grail Knights with this, but we pop a Wind of Death. Manages to go through quite a few of the men-at-arms over here, so that was a pretty good hit. My units here, the Black Knights, are pretty much out of the fight, but that's fine. He's decided to charge into the corpse cart with his general, but I think I've actually already regenerated as much as I'm allowed to regenerate with these guys. Although, I'm pretty sure I've regenerated more than the maximum limit more than a few times. Either way, though, corpse cart probably should get out of there, but it's fighting some halberds. General coming back in for another charge. Over here, they've got mostly Graveguard that they're fighting, so these men-at-arms with polearms, they're fighting uphill into Graveguard. That's going to be a death for them. Paladins over here, they've been popping their healing potions, so they're full health again, but they're still getting beaten just a little bit here. Got Master Beguilement down on that Paladin, and we're starting to chop into him a bit, but yeah, he really wants to go for that corpse cart. He does take it out, but I'm pretty sure that I cannot actually heal anymore from it. Over here, skeletons coming to the back, these spearmen at arms, the shields. It's going to cause some good damage to them. Corpse cart trying to run away from the general. It's just trying to keep that bonus going for me for a little bit longer, but it doesn't really matter tremendously. I think that paladin over here has not used his potion, maybe? I can't really tell. I could have sworn that he's healed a lot, though. Either way, he's about to break soon, so that should be fine there. General for them breaks as well, so... At this point in time, it's kind of just me forgetting to micromanage these guys. They probably should be pushing forward. I thought they would automatically pursue things a little bit longer, but apparently they don't. General's going to be back in the fight, and I do believe he's got his potion still, so he'll be back in the fight as well. But over here, we're seeing some shattering from these units over here. These skeleton warriors are free, so it doesn't matter what happens to them at all. Vlad von Karstein is just going to charge towards these Grail Knights. Managing to, just smack one down immediately. White King as well in there. So now that I've piled in some units dealing a little bit more damage to him, he's starting to retreat all those guys back, but this still gives my White King plenty of opportunities to start attacking these guys because they're still engaged in melee with him. Vlad's actually managed to knock another one out of the fight. Some of the Black Knights are also in there fighting with these guys, so these guys are not getting away scot-free, and that's the thing. You just have to keep on them with units that are at least as fast as them. And that is a great way to stop them from just constantly doing the cycle charging. Because you can't cycle charge against cavalry. It just doesn't. It's how you stop people from doing that. Flyers, it's harder to stop them, but that's how you have to do it. You have to surround them with cavalry, which is a little bit stupid. Honestly, I would like it in this game if they made it easier for cavalry to keep up with flyers. So if you're trying to retreat flyers away from cavalry that you've been charging into, the cavalry could keep up and keep on your heels and cause massive damage to the flyers as they're trying to run away. I think that would be a better way of doing it. Because as it is, this guy just sort of powers his way through a bunch of cavalry units and just takes off into the air and is perfectly fine. So he didn't take very much damage on that retreat. For some reason, the cavalry won't pursue and attack while they're doing it for some reason. I think that's the sort of main issue there. So over here, last of my Graveguard over here, dealing with another unit of men-at-arms polearms, and his entire army just chain routes at this point in time. I mean, I had plenty of units left over to take out the last little bits of his peasants. Vlad von Karstein probably could have done it by himself, but ultimately, yeah, we managed to win this mostly because I knew how to deal with that sort of air and cavalry cycles charging stuff, stopping him from doing that effectively. It's an important skill to have in multiplayer because this is a very common tactic. I wish it wasn't, because I think it's one of the least interesting ways to play the game, but it is definitely one of the more common ways that people play it. So anyway, let's go on ahead to our next game. This is going to be our last one here. And this time I'm playing as the Bretonnians here, and this is because I was actually going to play as the Empire, but then he switched to Empire, and I didn't want to play the mirror match, so I just sort of switched to anything. I probably shouldn't have switched to Bretonia, because I haven't played the style in a long time. Because, I've been trying to try out the new Regiments of Renown and stuff like that for the Vampire Counts and the Empire, so that's what I've been playing mostly, so I should have probably played one of those two. Probably shouldn't have also played Chaos in that very first match, but that's neither here nor there. With the patch, I do think that the Empire and the Vampire Counts have moved up way top to the top in terms of power. So anyway, let's go over our list here. We've got a Paladin, we've got 2 units of Pegasus Knights, we've got our General Lone Lane Corps here. We've got a Field Trebuchet, which is a terrible mistake. We've got 6 units of, or if we got 5 or 6. 5 units of Spearmen at Arms with shields. We've got 3 of the Men-at-Arms Polearms. We've got 4 of the Peasant Bowmen. We've got a Damsel. So my opponent over here has got the Mortar with Silver Chevron. He's got the Halberdiers. He's got 3 units of Spearmen. He's got 2 Handgunners. He's got 2 Swordsmen, including the Sigmar's Sons. Demigryph Knight unit, Crossbowman unit, and the Steam Tank. So this is, again, an army that sort of relies on those kind of gimmick units. All 3 of his games, he sort of takes those. They're very strong ways to play the game, and like usually I beat this, but I haven't been playing intelligently against it, and he plays with them quite well. So he actually gets really lucky shots with that mortar. Even for a Silver Chevron mortar, he gets ridiculously lucky shots with this thing. So I figure, okay, I need to take this stupid thing out because it will destroy my entire army by itself. I didn't really necessarily want to move my army forward, because if I can take out his mortar without using, without taking too much time, I can use my Field Trebuchet against him, and that would be more effective. Although, by contrast, my Field Trebuchet doesn't really hit very much that I'm actually aiming for in this game. Like, I'm aiming for these Demigryph Knights. He moves in the exact right moment and dodges those shots, which is neither here nor there. But they're never going to hit these guys. I'm never going to get a single hit against them. They're not the most accurate thing, so I guess that's just what I have to keep in mind, is that they can't actually be used for that purpose. But we're just charging our Paladin into the combat against the Mortar here. I don't care that he's got the Halberdiers there. That doesn't really make a huge difference in this instance. You'll notice that I overshoot. Like, I overshoot all the shots with his catapult. It's kind of weird. But yeah, my General goes in for a cycle charge here as well. I'm just trying to get these cannons on the charge value. I should have actually been using the Pegasus Knights instead of the General and the Paladin. But we take a bunch of damage from missile fire. But my General's going to be able to get out okay. It doesn't really make a huge difference. Yeah, so, but we do need to take out this mortar, so this attack kind of is worth it. It's just I should have been doing it slightly differently. And those net of Amatoc. The only thing I wish that it didn't do was, like, stop me from, like... It would be nice if they maintained their movement orders. But my General does get out of here relatively okay. He's got regeneration, so he'll be fine. But yeah, I still need to take out this this mortar. It stops it from firing. Like, one of the things is, like, one of my units actually already routed. From just mortar fire. The tank was firing at them, but it didn't actually hit them. So they actually went from like a full strength unit to routing from 2 shots from that mortar. So this is why I need to take it out so badly. But there was probably a better way to take it out. It's just, when your opponent's getting lucky with a mortar, it's a really high risk, high reward sort of unit in some respects, but I have to get rid of it. These Pegasus Knights I should have been microing a little bit better, get them out of the fight, but they got the mortar. Which is all I really needed. At this point in time, I charged my Paladin into the Steam Tank. I should have actually waited until my front line was a little bit closer before I did that. But there's nothing in my army that really effectively kills Steam Tanks. And it's one of the reasons why I have difficulty against this matchup sometimes, is like, Steam Tanks are one of those units that people take in match-made multiplayer. There's a rule against this here, so this doesn't happen, but... what people do with Steam Tanks is they'll take it and they'll just run away with the Steam Tank. And you can actually see him doing it here, but it doesn't really matter here. And since it's unbreakable, it doesn't matter, like, if you wipe out their entire army, he just runs around in circles with the Steam Tank. Which, thankfully is banned in this tournament to do that. So, but basically it's an unbreakable thing. If you manage to kill anything that, like, kills it, which, is quite rare, there aren't very many things that do, players tend to just sort of run around in circles, and you can't kill it with anything. So at this point in time, like, my for some reason my Field Trebuchet like overshot again. Like, I was actually aiming at these guys. It lands a really good shot into these guys though, so that's a good thing there. But yeah, like I'm trying to use the field trebuchet. I probably should have just not taken the field trebuchet. Our paladin actually completely routes off the field, which is a little bit odd. Getting an overcasted helmet just to... Although I don't remember actually overcasting that. I thought I just normal cast that. But anyway, the comet comes down, deals quite a decent amount of damage to those halberdiers, which I thought was actually more than I was anticipating. We're just trying to chase around these men-at-arms, polearms into these demigryph knights with halberds. And you can see that because there's like really no unit collision, he can just escape for free. This is why knights are really bad, or sorry, why spears were really, really bad in Attila and Rome Total War. But they were quite good in Shogun Total War, is because of the unit collision. Units that were stuck on spears took a lot of immediate damage in Shogun. Now that they've got a hit point system, these knights don't have that sort of problem going for them. And instead what happens is they'll take, like, no damage when they charge in. They won't get killed at all and deal a bunch of damage, and then they can cleanly escape, having lost a few hit points, whereas in Shogun they would have lost a couple of models, which wears them down quite a bit more quickly. In this one, like, that doesn't happen, so they need to be stuck in combat for much longer. We are getting a bit of a good charge here into the rear of these swordsmen with our halberds, but it's not going to be quite enough. We are putting Curse of the Midnight Wind, but unfortunately all my units chain route. I needed to have my general sort of nearer to them, and I'm sort of really playing that incorrectly. So my opponent's able to take advantage of that. He just runs a terror-causing unit there. All my units are now terrified, and they're not actually like proper routing for the most part. Most of them are either part of the chain route or they're running away because of terror. But they're not actually running away because they're losing combat. So, you know, if my general was over there, that would probably have helped out quite a lot in that sort of sense. Trying his general into more of my archers over there, which is a good idea. But on the other hand, like, it takes a long time for a general to kill an entire unit of archers or even chase it off the field. It's just that this unit's already at, like, 3/4 health. At this point in time, like, my general sort of gets caught in air over here. Probably doesn't really make a huge difference in this case. I wouldn't have been able to get a clean rear charge against these swordsmen, and they didn't run from the terror, so that was what I was really hoping it would happen to him. But his general's nearby, stopping that from happening. And at this point in time, it's pretty clear that he's going to win this particular match. So that is going to be 2-3 for him. He played really, really well. I played really, really poorly. So that is going to be a lot of why he's going to have won this. So, you know, don't take away from this that, you know, I was playing badly just because of a lot of pretty legitimate reasons, because he also played well, and you can't take that away from him. But I think I've got his number to a certain extent. That last match that we played, which was the first one you saw, you know, by that point in time, I sort of understood what his play style was, and his play style is very, very like patch 1.0 sort of thing. Just go for the general with everything that you've got there. And win that way, and it's a very, very effective sort of strategy in a lot of cases. Over here, you know, Steam Tank, like, Lowing Leaning Core is the only one that can really affect it. I probably should have just kept him in reserve for that purpose, but it's hard to do that with Bretonnia because they rely so heavily on their generals and stuff like that. If I did this one again, I would probably just rush him with my infantry, and it probably would have worked out quite effectively. Like, just get into range with my bows and just stand in front of him with my bows and peg at whatever I could, and I probably would have won the fight, in all honesty. But, you know, I didn't. I was sort of, like, worried about that mortar shredding up all my units, so I figured I'd have to deal with it. I probably should have just suicided 2 Pegasus Knights into the mortar, got rid of it really, really quickly, and then tried to win the infantry fight through mass and through archer fire. It probably would have worked. It probably would have, in all honesty. Another comet coming down. That's really kind of what I've got right now. Unfortunately, like, I was hoping to use Curse of the Midnight Wind, but I needed a direct damage as a secondary. But yeah, no, didn't really have a chance to use Curse of the Midnight Wind effectively there. His general tearing through some spearmen over there, and these spearmen, now that I don't have the general, are all going to start routing. That's the thing about the Bretonnians. You need to use your general to keep him with your infantry so that he's got that sort of morale boosting effect. And that damage mitigation effect as well is also really important for them. So, yeah, my opponent, good games to him. He did very, very well. Played really well. But, yeah, no, I'm going to come back in the losers bracket. I did get bumped down to those. Probably I'll be able to... I'm hoping I'll be able to tear my way up into the finals again, so, you know, hopefully that'll be something that we do, get a rematch, get my revenge on him. But, yeah, I think at this point in time I sort of understand his playstyle, and I understand a little bit better about how to play against him as well. So, yeah. a lot of kills on that steam tank, and I expected that, and I'm not really too concerned about that. It's a very expensive unit. When you've got a 2,200 point unit, you should really be getting those kinds of kills on it. His general got 94 kills. I'm not actually 100% sure. Oh yeah, no, he was killing basically all archers, which is, you know, fine. My general got 46 kills against slightly higher quality units, but more expensive units. But basically, nothing is cheaper than a peasant bowman out there. But yeah, 110 kills on the Sigmar Sons. They're a very, very strong unit. I think that their 43 melee defense is what really makes them a great unit. He got 37 kills on a mortar that only fired 2 volleys. That's kind of ridiculous, but very, very good for that one. He did give it a bunch of chevrons, but even then, like I've never seen my mortars do anything similar to that kind of damage, and that's not hyperbolic. Like, my mortars land and usually deal like 2 damage, and the damage values on these are not boosted by rank. So my opponent was getting very, very lucky with those shots. That's one of those things that can happen with them. Although, admittedly, I've said this before, I'm really unlucky with artillery, so that's just one of those things there. Like, the Luminarch is basically supposed to almost never miss. Mine misses all the time, and I've taken the Hell Cannon as well. They added, like, literal homing to the shots from the Hell Cannon. I still miss all the time with that thing, so I think that it might just be me. Anyway, yep. Good games to my opponent, and of course I hope you enjoyed this video, and of course I hope to see you all next time.